Welcome back to the Elias Makos Show. Now, Ottawa is starting to call on businesses to repay the billions in emergency loans dished out during the COVID-19 pandemic. Remember that? The problem, a year after the last lockdown was lifted, many shops and restaurants say they're still struggling to make ends meet. And as the deadline approaches, they're not yet in a position to cough up the cash. With more on this, let's go to Jasmin Guenette from the CFIB. That's the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Jasmin, welcome to the program.
It's my pleasure to be with you today.
So tell me about, it's so interesting here because I had a restaurant owner reach out to me last week, coincidentally, and they said to me, I'm worried about the loans that we have to repay. We can't do it. So why don't you tell me, Jasmin, what are you seeing right now from businesses, small businesses in this country?
Well, many small businesses took on the Canada Emergency Business Account, which we call the CFIB loan. Close to 900,000 businesses in Canada took on the CFIB loan to help them through the pandemic. So businesses took on either a $40,000 loan or a $60,000 loan, with a portion of it being forgivable if they repay the loan before the end of the year, this year. And many businesses took that loan because if we remember, during the pandemic, businesses had to deal with, restriction, and that loan provided a much-needed cash flow during the lockdowns and the business restriction that business faced during COVID. And now they have, and businesses have to repay the loan before the end of this year, before December 31st. In order to have access to the forgivable portion. Mm-hmm. And only 10% of small businesses have fully repaid the loan. And many are not in a position to repay the loan before the end of the year. And that's why we ask the government to extend the repayment deadline by another year.
So, it just sounds like it sounds like a great deal, right? When you think about the forgiving a full $20,000 of that $60,000 loan. So what do you say to some that argue it's been a year since the last lockdown ended, there's been plenty of time, and that businesses should have just been more prepared for what they knew was coming?
Well, that's easy to say in a way, but the situation that many businesses are in is quite difficult. 60% of small businesses in Canada carry pandemic-related debt, and on average, that debt is over $100,000. So many businesses have have to carry a huge amount in pandemic-related debt, and they have that debt not because they bought a new machinery or because they expanded their operation, but they have pandemic-related debt because they borrowed money just to keep the light open during the pandemic and the 2 years plus of restrictions and lockdowns. If you add to that, almost 50% of small businesses in Canada are not back to normal revenues, meaning that they're not back to the level of sales they were making prior to the pandemic. So many businesses have a huge amount of debt. Many businesses are not back to what they were making prior to the pandemic. In addition to that, they have to deal, like all of us, with inflation and price increase. They have to deal with many other factors like increased cost in borrowing. Now, when the interest rate goes up, businesses are also impacted. And all those factors make it very difficult for many businesses to even consider being able to repay before the end of the year the CFIB loan that they took during the pandemic. And I think it's a wise policy for government to extend the loan by a year to allow those businesses to get back on their feet, pay the loan, and carry on with their business.
We're with Jasmin Guenette, VP of National Affairs for the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, talking about the COVID-19 pandemic era loans that are now coming due from the federal government and how it's affecting small businesses. So, Jasmin, based on what you just said, I'm sort of worried that in a year's time, the situation will not have changed for these small businesses. The picture you paint is so bad that it feels like in a year they still won't be able to pay. So won't a delay just be delaying the inevitable?
I think it's the right policy for the government to delay the repayment for at least another year, giving more businesses the chance to repay. Now, as I said earlier, only 10% of CFIB users have repaid their loans, and 47% of small business owners say they will struggle. They say that they are at risk of missing the current repayment deadline. And so, if one thing is for sure is that if the deadline is not pushed back by another year, at least this time around, we will see many businesses that could be at risk of closing. And if we extend the repayment deadline, we give more businesses more chance to repay that loan and have access to the forgivable portion, which was the greatest advantage of that program. Mm-hmm. And remember, businesses had no choice but to take those different loans because they could not operate normally. And so it would be wise for the government just to extend, again, the repayment deadline by a year. And we also need to remember that businesses needed that cash flow, and that program was implemented to help businesses during the pandemic. And for many businesses, the impact of the pandemic is still being felt, mm-hmm. And that's why we're calling on the government to extend the repayment deadline.
Can I ask you here? Does it matter what industry the business is in, or have there been certain sectors that have been really hard hit that need the extra time, particularly? I'm thinking of restaurants, right? Or is this, or does it not matter? Is it every small business equally affected by this?
Well, the sectors that were the most impacted by the lockdowns are the sectors that need the extension the most. For example, you mentioned restaurants. This is one of the sectors that has been the most impacted by the pandemic. Tourism businesses were the kind of the first to close during the pandemic and the last to reopen when restrictions were lifted. The service sectors and the recreation sectors, for example, the gyms. The gyms have been closed for hundreds of days during the pandemic. It's impossible for any business owner to make a decent living when your business is shut down for weeks and weeks and weeks and months.
Yeah, with no revenue and nothing coming in.
Exactly. And the businesses that took on the 40,000 CFIB loan or the 60,000 CFIB loan to have some cash flow during the pandemic are not the Walmart and the Costco of this world, because they were fully open during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. They are the corner store, they are the local restaurants, they are our local gym and local hair salon.
Jasmin, listen, I think you're making a decent case here for independent businesses in this country, as I imagine you're paid to do. I want to thank you for your time this morning, and we'll see how this plays out.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
That's Jasmin Guenette, VP of National Affairs for the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses.